Chapter 39. Beneath. James had underestimated the survivors' ability to fend off the tag units. He'd expected things to get hairy when he'd seen the survivors' arsenal, but not in his wildest dreams did he think the commandos would lose a ship and be forced to back off before getting a man on the ground. With hindsight, he realised that the survivors would have had little trouble getting hold of grenades, mortars, and other heavy weapons. A smuggler could choose from thousands of kilometres of deserted Australian coastline on which to land a boatload of weapons that could be purchased in dozens of war-torn countries around the world. 20 minutes after the crash, smoke still poured out of the helicopter's mangled chassis. The surviving soldier, who'd fallen from the first helicopter and extinguished his flaming clothes, had been peeled off the ground and dragged inside as a hostage. There was much less smoke around now, and the air inside the education block had completely cleared. Lauren and Rat had tipped one of the desks onto its side and pushed it around like a snowplow, sweeping all the broken glass to one side of the room. James peered through a shattered window. After the explosion, there had been people running everywhere, but now the survivors and their weapons seemed to have retreated into buildings and tunnels. "What do you reckon?" James asked. "Looks pretty calm out there now. Shall we risk a move?" "Are you sure we're not better off here?" Lauren asked. "We've got no idea what's going on in the tunnels." James shrugged. "I can only see this ending one of two ways. Either the survivors are going to surrender and we all walk merrily out of the front gate, which seems unlikely, or those badass soldiers who just lost 20 of their colleagues are going to wait until they've got reinforcements and some armoured vehicles, and then they're going to storm this place. Whether that happens tonight, tomorrow, or at the end of a long siege, I don't want to be sitting in a building made from wood and plasterboard." Lauren nodded reluctantly. "I guess you're right. But Rat, you know this joint. Are you sure there's not a secret passage or some other way out of here?" Rat shook his head. "This whole place is built for a siege. The turrets are the only way in or out." "So we've agreed," James said. "Let's move." James led the way down a short corridor between two classrooms. He cautiously opened the door onto an outdoor landing and studied the shadows below before setting off down the metal steps. An ammunition cartridge inside the burning helicopter chose that moment to pop, and the three kids raced down and hit the ground at the bottom. It sounded exactly like they were being shot at. "False alarm, I think," James said warily. "I hate this," Lauren whispered, holding a clammy hand over her heart. Rat knew the way, so he took the lead on the 30-metre dash, crunching across a path strewn with broken glass before heading down a flight of metal steps cut into the ground. When they reached the thick metal door at the bottom, Rat rested both hands on the rubber handle and pushed down. The mechanism clanked, but he shoved hard and it wouldn't move. "You want me to try?" James asked. "I'm stronger than you." Rat shook his head. "You won't do it. The bolts must have been put on inside." Lauren tutted. "Isn't there another way in?" "I doubt it," Rat said. "Every second or third building's got a door out back that leads down into the tunnels. But if this one's been locked, I'd guess that they all have." "So now what?" Lauren asked, looking at James. "We could try a couple more doors," said James. "If not, we'll have to go back to the classroom. Maybe we can pile up the tables and make some sort of shelter or something." Lauren looked at her brother like he was an idiot. "Yeah, desks are notorious for their bullet-stopping ability." "Well, sis, if you've got any better ideas, my ears are wide open." "Shut it!" Rat gasped. "Something's up there." A torch lit up their faces as a shout came from the top of the staircase. Turn around, put your hands on your heads. James recognised the voice and smiled with relief. Ernie, thank God it's you. He felt confident until he heard the safety catch of an automatic rifle being removed. Hands on heads, Ernie repeated stiffly. I don't know what's going on with you three, but Miss Regan's had a dozen people out searching for you. Now, come up them steps nice and slow. No sudden moves. Everyone they passed in the dimly lit tunnels wore body armour, and most had a gun slung over their shoulder. The survivor's manual said there was no such thing as an angel who wasn't prepared to defend the Ark by any means necessary. The combo of ragged survivor clothes, middle-aged spread, and automatic weapons had a comic air, like a bunch of accountants dressing up to reenact some famous battle. But James didn't find it funny. These were Joel Regan's most fanatical followers, and they'd already shown what they were capable of. The Spider's bunker was 3 levels beneath the church. Her garb was pure theatre. Camouflage baseball cap, flak jacket, a small machine gun hung over her spindly shoulders, and 2 grenades hooked over the waistband of her cut-off jeans. The 3 kids lined up stiffly in front of her desk. Some of the Spider's cronies sat behind them on stacking chairs, including Georgie, who now sported a backwards baseball cap and an assault rifle. The 3 of you were seen clambering out of the residence, the Spider said. What were you doing up there? Susie ordered us up there to help her pack, James explained. But you clambered out and didn't return to school, the Spider said severely. Sneaks clamber, honest souls use the front door. James didn't know how to answer, and Rat took up the slack. I ripped one of Susie's skirts pulling it off its hanger, he lied. She started going insane, screaming and shouting about how much money it cost and threatening to have us paddled. She threw a makeup case at Lauren's head and we just legged it. We didn't want to disobey her, honestly, but we were scared. We'd seen what had happened to the butler and we really thought she was going to hurt us. I see, the Spider said, leaning across the desk and locking her fingers together. And then you were seen in the truck. I can only assume you were trying to escape. We were scared Susie was after us, Rat explained. James said he knew how to drive the truck. He said he'd be able to take us as far as the nearest town and phone his dad for help. James couldn't help admiring Rat's intelligence. The excuses were 10 times better than anything he could have come up with. The Spider hummed as she tried to find the flaw in Rat's story. But you must have realised that Susie and Brian had left when the jet took off. Why did you stay in hiding? I thought she might have left orders for Georgie to punish us when we got back to the school. Well, the Spider said, breaking into an uneasy smile. That seems to explain the great mystery. You'll be happy to learn that I don't think we'll be seeing Susie Regan inside the Ark again. Georgie cleared her throat, making it clear that she wanted to speak. The Spider nodded. Yes? I don't mean to speak out of turn, Eleanor, but you do well not to believe every word that comes out of Rathbone's mouth. He's a notorious liar. I've had to paddle him more times than the rest of the Blues combined. The Spider's face stiffened and she reared up in her seat. Georgie, I don't much care for your tone. I know Rathbone can be a handful, but you ought to remember that he is of the blood. He is and shall always be Joel Regan's son and my own half-brother. Georgie's bulbous frame seemed to wilt under the Spider's glare. Of course, she said weakly. I understand. Take the 3 of them back to the school, the Spider ordered, and make sure you don't lose them again. As soon as they were 100 metres clear of the Spider's office and heading down a tunnel towards the school, Rat couldn't resist giving his archenemy a cheeky grin. "Eyes forward, Rathbone," Georgie said acidly. "You might have sweet-talked your big sister, but I always know when you're lying." "How do you reckon on that?" Rat asked. "Because every filthy word out of your devil mouth is a lie." "Maybe I should talk to my big sister about you," Rat grinned. "I sense a serious lack of respect for my elevated status." They reached the tunnel beneath the boarding school 2 minutes later. All of the kids were confined to their dorms because of the emergency. Lauren gave James a worried look, thinking she was about to be separated from the boys and sent off to her room with the yellows. But Georgie had other plans and unlocked the door of an underground room. It was a nursery, set up with cushions and toys. The dank space, which smelled like water paint and milk, was home to 5 kids whose parents worked inside the Ark but weren't old enough to attend the school upstairs. There were no other adults around, and Georgie had simply locked them away, under threat of a good paddling if they misbehaved. "I don't want you 3 running off again," Georgie explained. "You can stay here, where I can keep my eye on you." A cute little girl holding a comfort blanket had strolled up alongside Georgie and tugged at her trousers. "Miss, Michael took my pacifier." Georgie glowered down at the girl. "I'm not your nursemaid, Annabelle," she growled. "Find another one or go without." The little girl scowled at a plastic tub on a high shelf. "Can't reach that." Georgie wagged her finger. "I'm not in the mood to put up with your shit tonight, Annabelle. Do you want a whack on the ass?" The little girl's face crinkled up like she was about to cry, but she reconsidered when Georgie raised a threatening hand. Lauren intervened, crouching down and smiling at the toddler. "Why don't you show me where the box is?" Georgie grabbed Lauren's t-shirt and dragged her back. "If you're going to start playing with the little ones, don't wind them up. It's late and it does my head in when they start screaming and chasing around." Lauren nodded politely. "Okay, miss." "I'm going upstairs for a smoke," Georgie said, scowling at James and Rat. "Behave yourselves, or there's going to be blood and snot all over the place when I get back here." Georgie backed out of the nursery, slamming the metal door and turning the key in the lock.